Okay, so welcome to Scrum Alliance online coaching session. Myself and Erkan, we're glad to have you guys here, and our theme today is bring your question. So hopefully you guys have questions prepared that you're dying to get answers to, and hopefully we'll be able to help you with those. Just by way of quick introductions, my name is Brock Argue, and I'm a certified enterprise coach through the Scrum Alliance. I've been in software development for about 15 years, a little over 15 years, as a developer and leader and Agile coach. I've been doing the Agile coaching thing for about 5 years now. I'm located in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and I'm working with a startup company here currently called Benevity, and we focus on online workplace giving solutions for corporations. So that's kind of a little bit about me. And looking forward to our discussion today and the questions that you guys have. So with that, I'll pass it off to Erkan, and then we can go around real quick if you guys want to give just a 30-second intro. That'd be great.
Yeah, so name is Erkan Kadir. I've been coaching individuals and teams in Agile since about 2012. Been working with Brock probably for about 10 years. He was an early coach of mine. I'm currently working at a company called Oildex. I hold an active CTC certification from the Scrum Alliance. I also have a certified professional in Agile coaching from IC Agile. And also looking forward to your questions.
Okay. I'm Ananda, and I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. And I've been primarily Scrum Master / PM, that's what the organizations call us, since 2012 October. So I've worked on multiple engagements, primarily not actually Agile transformation engagements, but more digital transformation engagements for clients, wherein they used Agile frameworks like Scrum, pretty much, for a lot of the implementation, and that's pretty much where I picked up a lot of concepts, and I've been lucky enough to get my CSP at this point. I'm still trying to work on, going to the next stage of whether to go into the coaching field or try to become a trainer. So lots of questions in my head, so we'll see where it leads me to.
Okay, good. Welcome, Nanda.
Hey, hi, this is Sundar. I work for a global insurer as a Scrum Master. So I have completed CSM from Scrum Alliance, as well as I have got CSP certification, and I have completed my PSM1 through scrum.org. So very much interested, looking forward for this online coaching. So I have some certain questions regarding scaling. So probably I can just ask you when you start them.
Okay.
So welcome.
Welcome. And okay, so I guess we'll get started there, unless Chris, you wanted to send us any info through the chat there. But I know Chris doesn't have audio or video available today, so that's fine. So let's get started. What we were thinking is we just kind of go around, and it's good, group this size, we'll probably have time for everybody's questions, at least one each, I suppose. And so what I thought is we just go around, and we can keep the same order that we just went through for intros, and just provide us your question, maybe a bit of background on it. We'll probably have some questions for you, and then we'll just kind of talk through it and see what comes of it. So, oh, hold on here. Chris has some info for us. Chris says, presently a lead for Agile for TELUS out of BC as a certified Scrum Master. Looking to improve on my certifications. Well, welcome. Another Canadian. Awesome.
Cool. Welcome.
Glad to have you. Okay, so Nanda, why don't you get us started?
Certainly. I think a lot of my questions primarily center on scaling, because the engagement that I worked on included at least a minimum of 10 teams. And each of those 10 teams, we had our own Scrum, daily Scrums and Scrum sprint plannings, and etc. But what we did lack was the overall planning structure for all the 10 teams to get together to understand that we're working towards a common goal. However, we're working on multiple applications. How do we inculcate that? Because there's a lot of debate on SAFe, and people don't like SAFe, and we're pretty much bashing safe on one end at the Scrum Alliance, and then there's also less. And so there's a lot of confusion here in our community per se in terms of how do we scale. And I personally believe in scaling Scrum as just Scrum of Scrums and keeping it simple. But how do we socialize that with management who are used to, more like they pretty much want safe and I'm like, that's just an overkill for what we're trying to accomplish here. So that's been a challenge. I think that's where I'm like, how do you guys handle such scenarios and telling clients like, how do we do this in a more simple fashion? Less is more, per se.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. How big is your organization?
So I work on. So I'm an independent consultant, and the organizations that I worked for, I did a 3-year engagement with a company with about 1,200 employees, but in IT was around 350 employees, and our program per se was about 150 associates working on a program that included implementing multiple systems and replacing the front office system for a large insurance carrier in Florida.
Okay.
So we're talking about configuration, we're talking about data conversion, we're talking about data warehousing, we're talking about integrations, and all these teams coming together as a large scale program. And I knew that we weren't doing it the right way because I was new to Scrum at that point, so I was still learning. But I could understand that what I was doing, the other teams were doing something different, and we were all not working together. There was no uniform release planning. It was all more, you guys do your own stuff, we'll do our own stuff, and we'll get everything together. Going to a new client, how do I tell them, let's do it this way? So I've tried different approaches though. I've tried using a little bit of DAD, taking some concepts out of DAD, taking some, so that's the discipline agile frame. I don't know if you guys have done that. Probably you would have, been coaches, but using some of that, but not taking a lot of just Scrum, because Scrum does not give you that framework per se. It's more, what do I call it? It's more mindset change. So it's difficult to talk to executives in terms of, let's do Scrum for this implementation, and can I get all your teams and then form them as Scrum teams and let's get this going. They don't seem to listen. They're like, so where does my director stand? Where does my my manager stand? So those kind of questions. So it becomes like he's trying to get our jobs out of the way, and we're just trying to execute it. So for his, for something that he wants to do for himself.
Okay. Sorry, and Erkan, did you have a question there? You were trying to jump in?
Oh, I think my question might have changed with more information that you gave.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, the one thing that I find is that I don't think there's any one kind of silver bullet in terms of scaling Agile. If kind of that's kind of what you're getting at. Like, I don't know if there's one framework that's going to necessarily work in every single case for you and in every client that you go to. Certainly, familiarizing yourself and being an expert in the different options that are available. And it sounded like you had already named a few of those, like SAFe and LESS and DAD, and those are great kind of tools to equip yourself with. But it'll really come down to understanding the particular client and where they're at in their Agile journey, and maybe what the challenges or roadblocks that they currently have are, and then going from there. So this current organization that you said you're with 300 people that you were talking about.
That was the previous one, and then I had a gig with another organization, and then currently I'm with another organization where I tried to inculcate the principles of let's try to do a finished set of functionality in a given sprint, but not calling it Scrum. I've called it different names because just calling it Scrum makes them feel a little jittery. So I called it, this is an iteration. We're trying to do a functionality in a given month, and then in 4 weeks, and then we're going to have a daily huddle rather than calling it a daily Scrum. I called it a daily huddle. And I said, we're going to have an intra-team huddle to resolve the scaling issues in terms of what the other teams have, dependency issues. So I've been able to inculcate that in that format. and they have understood it and they have taken that into consideration. One of my suggestions, and it's being implemented right now, but it was a painful process. I'm like they were receptive, so they were able to understand how. So this organization is different, but when going forward, there seems to be a disconnect between what Scrum can offer versus what a large organization wants from Scrum. And it's a challenge. Like we go in as Agile coaches or Scrum masters, they're looking at us like, what you're not giving me a solution. So I may be wrong because that's all I know. But are there other things that we need to equip ourselves in terms of to be able to go and provide solutions?
Yeah. Oh, Brock, you were going to say something.
Well, go ahead.
I was going
right after you're done.
Yeah, I think having a change management framework and really understanding change management in general as a practice will help you when you're looking at your transformation as a whole, whether it's bringing a new scaling framework into an organization or whether it's Scrum to a team or what have you. So that's maybe one thing to think about, and then Brock, I think we're going to jump in as well.
Yeah, I was going to jump in. I mean, it sounds so interesting, the experience you described, because it sounds like you've tried something and it's worked. It's been effective, right? Perhaps it was difficult to get going, the first time. So one question would be is what did you learn from that you can then take and apply to the next one? Because that is part of what we do is, that empirical learning through experience. And, you were able to accomplish what you needed. So that's good. That was effective. And it kind of follows along to the thoughts that I had, because there's a lot of opinions about scaling in the world right now. And probably every coach you talk to will have a different opinion and a different experience with it. And so one thing that I find valuable is what's the least amount that we need to put in place to accomplish the goals that we have. And so kind of first off is what are the goals? What does the organization need from us? Oftentimes, like you highlighted, it's the executives or leadership that need some information that maybe they're not getting right now. Or maybe there's problems that they perceive in the teams. So they want some kind of information to make them, feel better or feel like they know what's going on. So it's helpful to uncover that and kind of work with the leadership to see what are those challenges and what is it that, what is it that we need to address for them? Sorry, there's just a lot of background noise. I'm wondering if we need to mute whoever's not talking there, Sundar, maybe. Okay, that's better. So that's kind of one thing to make sure that we understand, the needs from that and kind of what's going on because of that. Like, why was that requested? And then be careful not to put tools and frameworks and process in place too early, right? And so starting with Scrum and Scrum across multiple teams, getting the teams working well, and then kind of add process and scale up as you need to, but not too fast and not too soon. And so, Scrum of Scrums works really well for coordinating, across a program and removing, impediments organizationally and that kind of stuff. So do that, see how it goes. Because what that gives you the opportunity to do is stop adding before you have this whole big thing that now you can't. One of the challenges with some of the scaling frameworks is you have to apply the whole thing. And once you've applied the whole thing on top, you can't really take pieces of it out. Sometimes, there are techniques in some of them that you can maybe use ad hoc, and that might be helpful. But that's the one challenge with those is you get the whole process and you get kind of the whole framework. Whereas if you kind of use Scrum and build it up from the bottom, you're able to kind of put together what's needed and then make sure you're, learn from experience as you're doing it. Make sure you're addressing the needs of the organization and then stop when that's all happened and don't add anymore. So that's kind of some of my thoughts. Okay. Good. Excellent question. Everyone's wondering about scaling these days. Okay. So we'll move on here. to Sundar, and we'll see if we have time at the end, if we can come back. And you guys probably have other questions, so we'll see how it goes. But Sundar,
Hi.
did you have a question for us?
Yes. Hi, Brock. Hi, Erkan. So basically, just following with what Nanda has asked for. So in terms of scaling, so we have a number of frameworks in the market.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we select which framework does fits for us? So basically, we have Nexus from Scrum.org.
Yeah.
You have, Safe. You have Scrum at Scale, Scrum of Scrums. So how do we choose which framework will best suit for me scaling? And do we have any parameters or criteria which we really need to think through before we pick up any of the scaling framework?
Okay, that's a good question. Lots of times when we're thinking of questions and that kind of those types of things where, we want a checklist where we can just say, okay, I meet all this criteria, so I should apply X to this problem. And I don't think it's that simple. I think as we're kind of working with the teams in the organization and seeing what challenges they're facing and what they need, that's part of the role as a coach or maybe even a Scrum Master with the teams, to figure out what would be helpful and what amount of process and what types of frameworks they would need. Obviously, the different frameworks have different characteristics, and some might be better suited to different organizations than others. So I don't know if there's an easy way to answer that as far as, well, here's if you meet these three things, you do Safe. If you meet these three, you do say Nexus, or just use Scrum of Scrums. But again, if you're taking kind of that minimalistic approach and adding process as you need to, only up to the point that you need, you're likely to not add too much and not apply frameworks that aren't necessary. So kind of along that lines, you can maybe, as you're doing that, if you feel there's more that's needed, you can add pieces of maybe a framework that you think might be useful and see if that works, and then maybe swap it out and try a few different things. But just kind of see what fits. But lots of times, cultural fit for the organization will be something to consider. Again, not really a checklist that it has to meet all these things, but different cultures will work with different frameworks perhaps. And so that would be something to consider, and current maturity of the organization and leadership and, what you're trying to get out of the scaling. So I would say those are some things to consider. Erkan, I don't know, do you have anything else to add there?
Sure. Yeah, I think, I agree with everything that Brock said. And I'm just curious if you're going through an evaluation phase right now.
Yes, Erkan, that's right. So we're just trying to understand which scaling is going to fit for us. So we are trying out different options, because if you say Safe is need to have complete reorganization structure, but the Nexus is again the existing Scrum, what we're doing, it adds a few of the Nexus integration team, and then a bit of events, which is they just renamed and redefined. And so that's where exactly we are looking at. If you want to Safe, the complete organization has to be restructured. But again, Nexus is going to be a quite simple one. But so just between on lines, which one we need to go for or less, or so that was I was looking for basically.
Yeah. Are there any small experiments that you could design that would give you more information that would help drive that decision?
Yeah, certainly that can be done. But I haven't tried yet, so probably I can take your thing. I can try it.
Okay. Yeah. That's always the scary thing, right? Is jumping in with 2 feet to something like that, as Brock said. Because if you're wrong, there's a lot at stake. But it's likely again that you don't need the whole to eat the whole elephant, as it were. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I like that you brought that up, Erkan. What experiment can you run, or what thing can you try, so to kind of accelerate your learning, and then there's a series of little steps you could take that would either deem a scaling framework unnecessary or would help direct where you would need to go and which one you would want to use. Yeah.
Sure.
Good point.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah. Even when you're implementing Scrum, starting with one team and proving that out before you roll it out to others is probably a good strategy. So I think a scaling framework, if you could do it in a smaller part of the organization and learn. Would be a good way to start.
Okay.
Good.
I know I'll let Chris ask the question, but I'm going to ask something that's related to what Sundar just asked. So I know we're talking about experiments, right? Shouldn't our vision for the scaling be tied to what the organization is going to look like in the future, rather than, it's not about just scaling Scrum, but it's also about how this whole group is going to be functioning as a unit going forward. That's something that has come to my mind a lot of times. Like, I can't just set up teams as Scrum teams, but that should also align with the way the organization or the IT or the business organization set up going forward. Like in the next 4 or 5 years, they're going to function like that. I mean, we're not talking about projectized teams, but we're rather talking about the way they're going to function on a daily basis. It kind of becomes their way of life going forward.
Okay. So that's a really great point. I like that. So I made an assumption in my answer, and the assumption was that the teams we're applying the scaling framework to were Scrum teams. And the reason that influenced what my overall answer is because when you implement Scrum, and often we do start in like the development organization and expands outwards or whatever, but it affects and it impacts the entire organization, and often will spread in the entire organization and needs to be as effective as Scrum can be. And so in that sense, my feeling was that, well, what the organization will look like in the future is a Scrum team, right? Because that's the framework we have, or framework that we have in place, and that's kind of the culture is driven a bit from that, And so in that sense, it makes sense with doing the experiments and kind of rolling it out slowly and trying all these different things to see, and starting with Scrum and then seeing what else is necessary. And so that's kind of where I was coming from. If there's a misalignment between leadership and where the organization is headed overall, and the teams that are Scrum, let's say, and that hasn't permeated the whole organization yet, that might be a bigger challenge, because they might have a different picture of the future, than what the one organization, one department does, or many do. So yeah, you'd have to recognize that and deal with that challenge. Yeah. Good. Okay. Thank you, guys. So Chris, let's jump over to you and see what question you have. You can just text that to us in the chat there. Perfect. Okay, I was looking for training. So what specifically? Okay, what specifically were you looking for in terms of training? Like what training were you interested in? Oh, okay. And you're in BC. Whereabouts in BC are you? Okay, perfect. Good. So sure. So yeah, I can absolutely recommend some training there. So in Vancouver, one of the organizations that certified through Scrum Alliance as well is called Agile 42. And they have a presence in Vancouver, and they do certified Scrum product owner training. They do it in Vancouver and in Victoria, I believe. And I was just in Victoria, and I took their product owner training last week, and it was very good. So that would be one that you can do. I believe they do it at UBC from time to time. So you can look that up. Their website's just agile42.com. And so you can check them out there. I know they've also partnered with UBC to do other Agile, I don't know if they're Agile leadership or just some other Agile training courses through the university. And so that might be another one that you want to look at. Some that offers weekend classes. Okay. I'm not sure what the schedule is for their stuff. No, I'm not sure there. So, but anyway, you can check their schedule and check what they have that they offer. As well, I mean, as an option, Erkan and I offer a coaching mentoring program for CTC or CEC candidates. We have a website, superheroes.academy. You can go check that one out as well if you want. And that's more geared towards if you're wanting to become a certified team coach or enterprise coach. So that's an option. If you go to, for similar programs like that, if you go to scrumalliance.org, on the, there's a get certified menu item. You can go down to the certified team coach, and in there, there's a link that says find a mentor, or find a CTC mentor, I believe. And if you look at that, there's a list of coaches who offer various types of mentoring programs. And so that's also a place that you can go to get some information as well. Okay, good, you're welcome. I hope that's helpful. But there's lots, again, depending on, the city you're in, and online versus not online and that kind of stuff. There's lots of different training options out there. So, but start at the Scrum Alliance site and then kind of work your way up from there. Okay, so we've got a few minutes left. Were there any other burning questions that you guys had that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, Brock, I have one. Can I go for it?
Yep.
Cool. So we've been saying, we work on Agile, and so how exactly, is there any tools, techniques do you really recommend for us to assess the team's Agile maturity?
Okay. Yep. Erkan, do you want to start with this one, and then I can follow?
Yeah. So I can tell you what I use currently, or we can talk a little bit about what you're doing now, and how you can maybe add value to that approach. What would you prefer?
Probably I would just like to understand how exactly you guys have been following, because we have list of parameters, like you have your daily Scrum events, how diligently it's been following or not. So kind of list of questionnaires wherein we try to get the inputs from the team and really need to understand whether they are doing Agile. So rather than doing Agile, we need to be Agile. So that's where my thought process is all about.
Okay, so a couple models I'll tell you about. One that I currently use that Brock actually started at a company that we worked at together. It takes a mixed approach. So first thing we do is ask a team, or actually work with the team to take the Agile survey at comparativagility.com. And that survey is awesome because just going through the survey itself, just the act of doing the survey has a lot of there's a training or teaching component with respect to Agile. But it also does great for just assessing where the team's at in terms of their use of Agile practices and tools and techniques. And then that survey will also evaluate the team based on other teams in similar industries, and it'll kind of give you a benchmark to follow on kind of where you're at. And then in addition to that, we have what we've branded here as a behavioral maturity model, and we'll rate teams kind of on their path towards starting as an emerging Agile team and working up through several different categories up to what we call innovative. And that rating is really based on the behaviors that they display as a result of their use of those Agile tools and techniques. So it's really the mindset component of it. And then we kind of put that into a bit of a report, and we work with the team to come up with action items and such, so that they can move to the next level of their maturity. So that's been working really well for the organization that I'm at right now, and we've iterated on that particular model and such as time has gone on. Another coach that we know of, Simon Orell, he uses the Dreyfus model of skills acquisition to measure where a team's at. And this model is actually really cool too. I think he has a presentation online. If you Google Simon Orell Dreyfus model, I'm sure something will come up. But that basically measures, or the Dreyfus model anyway, measures a person's maturity in in learning and applying a new skill from basically just a novice up to mastery. And depending on the level they're at, that'll actually inform you as to in many ways the coaching strategy you'll take, how much teaching they need versus how much coaching and support. It'll help you kind of determine when to intervene with a team and how. So that was a model that I've really been interested in as well.
What's the model called, Erkan? Can you repeat again?
So a coach named Simon Areld took the Dreyfus model of skills acquisition that you can use to apply to any skill, and applied it to Agile.
Sure. And what was the first website you were talking about for the Agile survey? What was that?
Oh, that was comparativeagility.com. It's a mountain goat software offering from I know that.
Yeah, Mike Cohn and Kenny Rubin put that one up. Yeah. Good. Okay, cool. So the other things I'll add to that, if because maturity assessments and team assessments and organization assessments and all those kind of things, there's a million of them out there now, and so just Googling Agile assessment or Agile maturity assessment, you'll probably find lots of stuff. Anytime you go to an Agile conference, there'll be a session or an open space on an Agile maturity model of some kind. So there's lots of different thoughts out there. And so lots of times we choose to create our own, and that's a great option. They're not that difficult to kind of come up with, but I just wanted to kind of give a couple of, cautions or things to consider when you're doing that. We want to make sure that whatever we're using to assess teams, I want to make sure the process is transparent, and so that teams understand, how it works and why we're doing it and that kind of stuff. Because really, it's for driving learning, right? Not comparing and whatever with our teams, and so we want them to learn on this journey that they're on how to improve and how to be better. So we want to make sure that that's kind of at the heart of it, and also whatever categories and questions and things that we decide to assess, I want to take that back to the Agile values and principles, the Scrum values, and make sure that none of the things we're watching for are going to undermine the team or go against the values that we uphold, as far as our Agile values and principles and that kind of thing. Want to make sure that the ways we're doing things promote team behavior, for instance, promote learning, and speed and transparency and all that kind of stuff. So something to be cautious about, that sometimes we can, with good intentions, put things in assessments that aren't actually helpful and will change team behavior in a way that we didn't intend. So just watch out for that.
Thanks, Brock.
Yeah, nice. Okay. Another question. Somebody else?
This is a generic question though. What do you feel as as a CEC and a CPC? What's the current state of the state of coaches? And are you looking to add more coaches to the already available coaches? And do you feel like adding coaches adds value to Scrum Alliance's spreading their wings across multiple organizations? Because I'm sure everybody wants to be a coach, or everybody wants to be a trainer at some point, but what do you feel being there, looking at other aspiring people coming in? How do you feel like, they're getting they're learning their stuff and they're coming in? Do you think that the process is getting transparent and there's a lot that's happening within Scrum Alliance to add more coaches or add more trainers? I just wanted to hear from you, because I've talked about this with several people, even at the last conference. I'm hoping to ask the same question again this conference. So we'll see.
Are you going to be there in San Diego?
Yeah, I'm going to be there in San Diego.
Okay, I will be too. So maybe we can connect.
We should definitely meet. Yes.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Okay. Cool. If you don't run into me, I'll be at the coaches clinic from time to time. So you'll probably find me there too. But
sure.
Okay, so good question, and there's probably a couple of things that you're really asking there. One is perhaps Scrum Alliance's perspective on some of this thing and where the Scrum Alliance is at with all of this, as far as coaches and trainers, and then how individual coaches and trainers, feel about or respond to adding more coaches and trainers. So answering for myself, we need more coaches and trainers. And so we're always looking to have more, and kind of bring them in. And one of the reasons I say that is the mission of the Scrum Alliance is to transform the world of work. And currently, I think overall, there's probably 260 or something coaches and trainers together. And there's still lots and lots of organizations that need our help and need coaches at the level that the Scrum Alliance is at, to help them out with their journey and their transformation and whatnot. So from that standpoint, I think there's tons of room to grow. I don't feel like the market is saturated in that sense that there's too many coaches, at least from the standpoint of Scrum Alliance coaches. Our coaching programs are pretty high bar kind of programs, and so we have really good coaches in the Scrum Alliance, as well as trainers. And so there's a lot of Agile coaches in the world today, but you really have to look at the experience level. And so I've been a Scrum Master for 3 months. I'm an Agile coach, and I've been doing this for a decade. And I'm an enterprise coach at the Scrum Alliance. I'm an Agile coach, right? And everything in between. And so that's kind of the challenge, I think, for organizations, is really understanding that when I say as an organization, I need an Agile coach, and I go out to look for one, what am I looking for? What are the options I have? Someone says they're an Agile coach, how do I differentiate these certifications? All of that kind of thing, all that kind of stuff. So it can be difficult from that standpoint, but I feel like we need more. And that's one of the reasons like Erkan and I are involved in mentoring and trying to help other coaches, to get involved. We had help on our journeys. Other coaches from the Scrum Alliance helped us. And so we want to help, other people. And there's lots of opportunity for good coaches to be working with organizations. So yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Anything you wanted to add there, Erkan?
Yeah, sure. From my perspective, so I'm a CTC, and I think there's only like seven of us right now, just because it's a brand new certification. So the more coaches that we can get, the more credibility it'll add to that certification, and the more people will know about it. And so if you look at some of the other hot ones that are out there and such, I think it's really the network that's the valuable part of having something like that. And as it grows, the value of that network grows. So always want more. And kind of as Brock said, that's been the focus of some of the community outreach that we've been doing is for the express purpose of growing more CTCs and CECs within the Scrum Alliance. So yeah, good question.
Yeah, that was interesting. No, I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, I think, and the interactions I've had, the last year I've connected with a lot of coaches and some trainers as well. And the interactions I've had are fairly similar sentiments for most. Most are happy to be involved with mentoring for those who really want to grow. And so, I haven't really seen any issues there. But, yeah. Okay, we've probably got time for one more question, I think, and then we'll see where we're at there, and kind of go from there.
If it's okay, I can show a question to Brock.
Okay.
So you are a CEC, and I've taken CSM and CSPO from CSTs.
Yep.
And I know they're not. I know at that point they were not Agile coaches, so they were full-fledged trainers.
Mm-hmm.
And I know CECs also offer training, and that's one of their components. And you come with an experience of being a coach, right? So how different is getting the training from a CST who's always training versus a CEC who's coaching and training? does that add value? A lot of us had this question too in the last Alliance gathering. Like, does it make sense to be a CEC and train? Because you're constantly in that world on a daily basis. And you're not just training, whereas you're experiencing it and then coming to your training. Because there are a lot of questions that go unanswered during the training sessions when you're trying to get certified. Because they can't answer all the questions. It's all, this is the structured methodology, this is what we want to teach you, and boom, you got your certificate. And so I think.
So first off, a lot of the trainers, the certified Scrum trainers, also coach in the sense that they go into organizations and help them with their transformations as well. They may not have a coaching certificate, and there is a difference. Enterprise coaches, we do tend to have different coaching skills than maybe the trainers do, but they are involved in some of that to a large part. So they will have some of that experience. As someone coming in and getting training, if you go to a training course, you get the training, and then you're no longer with the trainer. The challenge there, like you highlighted, is, well, I only get 2 days with the person, and then I'm on my own. And so that's where an organization that brings a coach in has the added advantage of, well, I have the person on site. They're here for a while. They can do some training, sure, to bring people up to speed, maybe on the basics or, what the framework is, that kind of stuff. But then they're also there as the teams run into issues and as individuals run into, different challenges that they haven't faced before. The coach is able to kind of guide them in that. So that's just an advantage of having someone on site versus just going to training. But both are helpful. And as you highlighted, coaches do training, although the requirements for the level of trainers we're at isn't the same as for a CST. They have to be really, really good at training as well as the material. Whereas the vice versa, or the opposite is true, where enterprise coaches that are certified as enterprise coaches have to prove that we're really good at coaching as well as Scrum, whereas trainers don't necessarily have to do that. So just kind of a difference in depending what you're looking for. Yeah. Good. Okay. So we've got just a couple of minutes, and one thing we were going to do, and we'll probably still do this, is we're going to send a survey out to you guys at the end, maybe later today or tomorrow or something like that, just to get some feedback. But what I thought, since we have 5 minutes right now, and this is a good ending to a discussion on Agile topics and whatnot, I thought maybe we could do just a quick retrospective right now on what you guys thought of the session so far, and any thoughts that you'd have for improvement. So what I'd ask, maybe just give you a couple of minutes, maybe not a couple minutes, maybe a minute to think on how this session was for you. And so, and I'll actually do this in a second, but I'd like you guys to give a thumbs up or thumbs down on how this session was, and then just give us a brief reason for that and one thing you would change the next time that we do this. Okay, so I'll give you a second to think about that, and then if you're ready, feel free to go ahead, and we'll just kind of go through each person, and you can share that feedback.
I'll go first.
Okay. Yeah.
I think the format's pretty good. We only have 5 participants, including the 2 coaches, so it was a close-knit group, and that kind of helped all of us share our questions. What we could have done probably next time is, can we narrow down to certain topics, and so we all come in with those questions. Okay. There could be multiple topics that we all talk about, but if we had like 8 or 10 participants, there could be a wide range of topics. If we could narrow down some topics and we get a broader coverage of that, then we could shift to another topic for a different session. Just my thought. Okay. But I'm happy. I mean, you'll get multiple topics, that's totally fine, but narrowing down gives us more ideas about those topics from different perspective, and we can take that over to the organization that we work for.
Great. Good. Thanks for the feedback.
Hi, Brock. Hi, Erkan. So my thought is it's really a great initiative from the Scrum Alliance perspective of doing online coaching. Mm-hmm. So I can just sit at my home and then I can get the, all whatever the questions which I have can answer from the coaches. That's really pretty interesting. I'm looking forward for more of these. And it's echoing what Nanda has just mentioned. If at all we have a theme which has been, just thought through for that particular session, and I think we can all think about that. For example, what's happening with the Scrum Alliance, the collaboration at scale, which Luke Holman is doing for every month, I believe. Like he picks up one of the team, and then the same way if we can do for the online coaching, I think that would really help. My just 2 cents.
Okay, and sorry, when you say that he's picking up a team or a theme, is that what you mean? Like a
I meant the theme. Yeah,
a theme. Okay,
topic.
Sorry. Very good. Yeah, makes sense. Okay. And Chris, if you have feedback that you would be willing to share with us, that'd be great. Yeah. Okay, I like the format. It's important to have forums for question and answers. I think this can help grow the Agile community. Okay, cool. Anything that you would suggest that we change so that we can improve the next time?
I'll wait for him to. I have one more thing to just ask you, if you could give me a minute.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, well, here we got the answer. Keep it personal like this. Okay, so the small group is good. Okay.
Yeah. What I wanted to add was we had a Scrum Alliance group in Jacksonville, Florida, and now that one got closed or nobody's taking care of it. So I asked for reopening a new user group in Jacksonville, and if I'm able to bring a group together, so I would like to know if we could have a session like this for a larger audience that will sit in one room, but with all of you from different areas, and we could have a collaborative session like that.
Yeah,
I'm trying
absolutely.
to do that. Okay, cool.
Okay.
And I'll do my best on that to get that rolling.
Yeah, I'll send you my contact info after so that we can stay in touch, and then I think that'd be awesome. And there's definitely opportunity to get some different coaches coming through like that or whatever. For sure.
Yeah, they'll be interested to hear your perspectives. But we always have a meetup here. We talk about things, but it's more like we all talk about stories, and it'll be better to have coaches talk about. We don't have coaches here, so
yeah, they're both good.
But we'd like to hear your perspectives.
Okay, good. Let's do that. All right. Well, that is the end of our time. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you.
This was fun. It was good to kind of have the different conversations and hear your questions. I trust it was helpful for you guys as well. And stay tuned with the Scrum Alliance. There'll be a lot more online coaching to come. I'll send out a link to a YouTube channel where we're posting these online videos. And all of the coaches that are involved in online coaching or mentoring are putting videos there. So you might find those useful just for your own learning, but also if you subscribe to the channel, as new videos are posted, you'll be notified and you can be able to go and have a look at those. So stay tuned for that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Good.
Great meeting
See
everyone.
you guys later.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes.